outer space, a burst of light brighter than any flash ever seen from Earth, but was picked up by NASA's James Webb Space Telescope at the end of 2022. Normally they're caused by exploding stars or supernovas, and that, it turns out, is the case with this one. But what's puzzling researchers is that to create such a problem, the star would have had to have been vast, and this one wasn't. Peter Blanchard, postdoctoral fellow at Northwestern University, just outside Chicago. He spoke to my colleague James Blanchard.
So this flash of gamma rays was almost about 100 times brighter than previous flashes of gamma rays, what we call gamma ray bursts, that have been detected in the past. So this far surpassed, the previous record holder. Really an extraordinary flash of light.
And does that then suggest that the supernova that released all that energy was 100 times bigger, or should have been 100 times bigger?
So that's what's really interesting, is that our study is suggesting that that is likely not the case. When we have a gamma ray burst like this, resulting from the collapse of a massive star, which we now know to be the case, the source of the gamma ray emission is coming from jets of material that are moving out at close to the speed of light from a central black hole, the collapsed core of the star. And what seems to be the case here for why this gamma ray burst was so bright is that those jets of material are very narrow. So it's like if you took a focusing flashlight and focused the beam into a very narrow column as opposed to a wider beam that washes across the wall. Essentially, the energy is just getting concentrated into a narrow beam, and that's likely why this event is so bright.
Okay, so it's focusing the explosion. So when did this star explode? How long ago?
The star exploded in this distant galaxy about 2 billion years ago. So we're talking 2 billion years ago in the history of the universe. We only just received it in October 2022.
And how rare are these? And I'm asking that because presumably it was quite lucky that the James Webb Telescope was hot.
So another really extraordinary aspect of this event is it was incredibly rare. We estimate that an event like this, such a bright explosion like this, occurs about once every 10,000 years. This is likely, the first time since the dawn of human civilization that humanity has witnessed such an explosion like this. It could be a very long time until we see that happen.
There's another aspect to this, and it's about the elements, the metals that were produced in the explosion. They're not quite what was expected, is that fact?
That's correct. For a long time, astronomers have been looking for the places in the universe where heaviest elements on the periodic table are found. We're talking very heavy elements like gold, platinum, lead, and uranium, elements that are culturally and economically important here on Earth. For a long time, we just have not fully understood where these elements get produced. They require extreme conditions to synthesize. And so one idea is that in these very extreme gamma ray bursts, we think that this is a really ideal place to form heavy elements. But it turned out when we looked at our data, we didn't see any evidence of these heavy elements. So this is suggesting that these extreme gamma ray bursts are actually probably not ideal places for these heavy elements to collapse.
But it's Peter Blanchard, Northwestern University, just outside Chicago, ending this edition of News Hour. We'll meet Julian Marshall and the London.
Consistency is the key to make a new habit stick. Morning edition of NPR News makes it easy to stay informed. Listen every weekday.
You're listening to KPBS FM HD San Diego, KQVO HD Calexico, a service of San Diego State University.
In Escondido, the crash north of the Euclid Valley Parkway is clearing out. However, you still have some slow traffic back to Center City Parkway South. 115 then, traffic is building from Rainbow to Winchester Road through Temecula. Southbound coming down the coastline, also congestion starting around the west area to the 78. 1 hour is delayed at San Ysidro, 45 minutes at Otay Mesa, 90 minutes downtown Calexico. Traffic supported by Lexus Escondido, between the 20, 23, 24 models, and pre-owned Lexus vehicles. More at LexusEscondido.com. For KPBS, I'm Mark Zegan.
10 years ago today,
Today, more than 250 Nigerian girls were kidnapped from their school. Many of the girls who returned home got right back to life with their families. For others, it's been more complicated.
It's difficult for them to adjust to what their parents expect.
I'm Carolyn Beeler, and I'm Carol Hills. Today, we'll hear from our team in Israel.
A server in a restaurant here commented last week that this whole country is in need of therapy.
And diplomats meet to tackle the conflict in Sudan.
This was an avoidable war, and it is also a fixable war.
Meanwhile, Poland is cutting back on homework. Kids rejoice. That's all ahead today on The World.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. In terms of a threatened Iranian attack against Israel, President Biden had one word of warning today: don't. The president issued that response to a reporter's question at the White House. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says the U.S. stands ready to help Israel. He noted the president is being constantly updated.
He is being briefed by the national security team multiple times a day in terms of what we're seeing. And again, he has made it clear to the entire national security team that we will take seriously our commitments to the self-defense of Israel.
Iran has vowed to retaliate for an airstrike on Iran's consulate in Syria that killed several Iranian generals. The U.S. and several other countries have issued new travel guidelines for government employees. An unnamed U.S. military official also says U.S. warships have been moved into position to protect the Israeli and American forces in the region. Palestinian emergency responders say an Israeli airstrike on a home in Gaza City has killed at least 28 people. The Israeli military did not immediately provide details on the strike. Hurricane Western has more from Tel Aviv.
Israel removed most of its ground troops from Gaza this week, but the military bombardment continues. Israeli airstrike killed multiple members of 4 families in a home, says Mahmoud Basal of the Civil Defense Emergency Response Group affiliated with Hamas rule in Gaza. He said there were body parts everywhere and that women and children were among the dead. Israel's army offered no immediate details. Also, Israel's army says it launched an operation to entrench troop presence along a corridor dividing north from South Gaza. Teacher Mohammed Imad. He says, it's been terrifying at night. There's close continuous fire. We are civilians and we want to live in peace. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
The House of Representatives has passed a 2-year reauthorization of a warrantless surveillance law. NPR's Barbara Spahn explains it comes after intense debate among GOP Republicans.
Reauthorizing a section of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which enables intelligence agencies to gather communications of foreign targets without warrants, was a priority for House Speaker Mike Johnson. But former President Donald Trump threw a wrench in the process earlier this week when he called on House Republicans to tank the bill. More than a dozen Republicans prevented Johnson from bringing the bill to the floor. Eventually, enough Republicans came on board for passage after Johnson shortened the reauthorization period for the program from 5 years to 2. The bill now heads to the U.S. Senate. The law is set to expire April 19th. Barbara Sprent, NPR News, the Capitol.
Stocks took a major hit today on some of the worse-than-expected earnings numbers that came out, along with ongoing concerns about interest rates and heightened concerns in the Mideast. The Dow dropped